After his quest to retrieve the orb and the sceptre, the rightful ruler has returned. But all is not well in the city of Irsmuncast nigh Edge, for an army of foes, spawn of the rift, have risen up and assaulted the city. Not only that, but rumour has it they are marshalled by one ancient foe, an old enemy. Sorcerak, the leader of the Legion of the Sword of Doom, has brought death and destruction to this fair city, and it is up to the ruler to defend it. But he is no mere mortal politician. This is Avenger. He is ninja, and he follows the way of the tiger. I am Ninja. My parents are the heaven and the earth. My home is my body. My power is loyalty. My magic is training. My life and my death is breathing. My body is control. My eyes are the sun and the moon. My ears are sensitivity. My laws are self-protection. My strength is adaptability. My ambition is taking every opportunity with fullness. My friend is my mind. My enemy is carelessness. My protection is right action. My weapons are everything that exists. My strategy is one foot in front of the other. My trust is in quality. My way is the way of the tiger. Hello everybody, I'm Raphael Perry and it's time for some more of The Way of the Tiger. And if you watched the last episode, you probably recognise this illustration. After the unfortunate auto-kill last time, I can essentially return to this portion of the adventure with minimal dice rolling. If I avoid, well, yeah, arguably a way that involves even less dice rolling and doesn't involve fighting the troll at the beginning would be to avoid the troll fight, go through the dungeons and suffer the blindness penalties until after the banquet. However, any damage dealt in the troll fight will have been healed automatically as soon as we get onto the defence of the city. So essentially that is the only portion of the book, and I think we'd need like one fate roll to get back to here. And that's essentially rolling a 6+ on 2 dice. And you know what? I can try that now, right? There you go. And otherwise I'd just essentially be re-rolling until that was successful. Unfortunately, I've wasted a good roll of a 10 there. But then I would get back to this fight with the Spawn of the Rift. And it's quite a nasty one. I'll go through the intro in a bit, but essentially we have 3 combat options. Section 213, we cannot block its attack. Section 263, we cannot block and our defense is 5. Our defense is 6 at the other sections. Section 283, we can block.
In 213, the no block instruction is above the attack that we make. In 263, there's no mention above the attack, but below the attack, when the enemy counters, that's where we're instructed we cannot block. 283, there's nothing about not being able to block. Now, I'm just going to go to the nearest one of these sections, because the monster has 24 endurance, which is quite a lot, and deals 2d6 plus 3 damage, which is 5 to 15 points of damage against our 20 endurance points on a hit. Additionally, our defense against it is relatively low. Now, this is a very hard fight, and it's going to come down to random dice rolls. Essentially, we just need to go to section 283 and stay there. There's nothing there about not being able to block. Ah, there is no way that you can block its attacks. Okay, so we can't block anywhere. Odd, for some reason I thought we could block one of them. The reason I'm bringing up blocking, of course, is that our defense is quite low. It can hit us relatively easily and hits very hard. Let's say we have an average dice roll. We'll do about 10 or 11 points of damage. It can kill us in 2 hits. It has enough health that we would in theory need 4 to 6 hits unless we dump in inner force to kill it. My suspicion is that this encounter is specifically designed to rob us of inner force points. The other important factor is that after this, we have the encounter with the Dark Elves and their poisonous spiders. And virtually every option there leads to being bitten by the spiders unless we have a lot of shuriken to throw. We have 2 to throw at the spiders as they come in. And it's roll d6 and add the amount of shuriken you have. At the most, I could kill off 1, maybe 2 of the spiders. Couldn't kill all 3. It would be literally impossible. And I'd need to roll a 5 plus to kill 1 of them, I think. So every option there seems to lead to being bitten, which means, fortunately we have immunity to poisons, so we would only take 8 points of damage, which means we need to suffer less than 11 points of damage in the fight against the Spawn of the Rift. Otherwise, it's go back to the start of the book time. If this thing needs to do less than 11 points of damage and our defense is only 6 or 5 against it, and we can't block to make it reroll its attacks. Now, it's probably going to hit on the rerolls, but the fact that we would make it roll would give us a chance. Its defense is so low that we could easily take the -2 penalty to hit for blocking and still hit it. But we can't block. Interesting. Let's just double check all those. So, 283... otherwise there is no way that you can block the attacks of all 3 slashing. Yeah. 263. Defense 5. Can only dodge for you cannot block all of its attacks. And 213. You may not block because you try to dodge rather than defend yourself against it, which is not then mentioned lower down. This section was probably written separate time to the other two. Either this one was written first and the other two written after, or the other two were written first and this one was written after because of the change in formatting. It's a race to do 24 points of damage before the thing can land 2 blows. Very, very risky. I believe last time I only used 1 point of inner force because I was extremely lucky and the monster missed with a number of attacks. I think I even missed with 1 attack. I believe it did 8 or 9 points of damage when it hit me last time. I'll give it a go, right? But I'm not going to keep re-rolling this fight on screen because it'll be a really long episode, alright? Let's see how I do. As night approaches, one of the carrion crows caws faintly and then lets itself be borne away by the wind in the direction of the rift. Long before the last light is gone, your acute sense of smell alerts you to something unnatural. All is peculiarly still. The wind has changed and the taint on the air is coming from the direction of the rift. The world goes a glassy green. For some reason, your brain is concentrating on the vision it receives from the emerald orb. You recoil in shock. Just a few paces away from you is a creature from your worst nightmares. Its body is like that of a 6-legged mammoth from which the flesh has wasted away. It has 3 heads, each totally different, and each overloaded with a fearsome array of tusks, fangs, and horns. Its shape shifts as if it moved by floating, its feet not quite in contact with the bare earth. You can see nothing through your natural eye. The creature is invisible to normal men. 3 misshapen serrated tongues slaver and saw at grotesquely calloused lips. Its intention? To kill you cannot be mistaken. It towers high above you. This feels like a Lovecraft monster. I'm not quite sure which kind, but it's got that vibe to it. So with our 3 options, the Cobra Strike Punch is defense 5. The Fork Lightning Strike with Winged Horse Kick. One of them seemed to be slightly better before, and I can't remember which. I think it's the Winged Horse Kick that worked in our favour last time, because when I played it, I didn't notice the no block there either. There is little point in using finesse against this monster. The Winged Horse Kick will do as well as any other, you guess, as you drive your heel at the nearest snapping head with bone-crushing force. It is very easy to kick, and I did say last time that I really, really, really wanted some inner force on this attack. I think I can afford to use 2 points of inner force. Now, last time I got very lucky. This time I also land a very successful kick. Now, for kick damage, we will have 6, 12, 2 less than last time. But it is a very successful kick all the same. So 12 drops 24 down to 12. However, the monster will now get an attack. There is no way that you can block the attacks of all 3 slashing, goring, snapping heads at once. Your defense as you leap back and try to dodge is 6. Let's do that. It lands a blow. 2d6 plus 3. 12 damage. Killed by spiders. Right? We'll try again. We'll give it 3 attempts. Why not? So, we send our first kick within a force. Hits. 1d6 plus 2. 6. 12 points again, knocks him down to 12. As if this thing is a him or her, it's a horrific monster. It attacks back. It hits for 10 points. Okay. We're in with a chance. I think, given the severity of the situation, another kick within a force is in order. Successful. I did say inner force. 6 points again is 24. Oh! Second attempt. Okay. But we are down to our last point of inner force, and that may really matter a lot later on. Hopefully there'll be a chance to replenish it. I have my doubts. If, later on, there is 2 points in the adventure where inner force is required, possibly even in a non-combat situation, and we have no option to replenish it, I don't fancy coming back and redoing this fight. And of course, with the errata, the correct section to turn to is 323, not 303. Because that's an auto kill. The grey skin bulges where the three necks meet, high up on the beast's body, as if there were an important nerve centre buried just beneath it. Your Cobra Strike punch hits home and your fingers sink into a surprisingly soft flap of skin. The monster convulses and collapses to the ground at your feet. Though invisible, its pulse can still be felt and it weakens gradually, and then stops altogether. You decide to leave the corpse for the ants that will detect it by smell alone and continue on your way. This unnatural creature is a creature of the darkness, most likely a pet of the Old Ones, you surmise. You have not gone much further when a new threat presents itself. 3 giant crows, each large enough to bear a man, carry 3 figures towards you. Your excellent vision, not of the green world of the plains as seen through the orb, for these are natural beings, allows you to tell at a distance that they are dark elves, probably spellcasters, for they carry only short stabbing swords, and wear no armour. You decide to take a stand between a gaunt tree that has been struck by lightning and a pier of naked rock. The crows glide clumsily to the ground and the elf riders dismount at 3 corners of a triangle, of which you form the centre. Each bears a strange purple headdress with a bloated green spider perched on top. They are instantly recognisable as worshippers of Nulak, the supreme queen that rules in malicious envy. Each places a small purple executioner spider on the ground before them. The spiders are no bigger than a man's thumbnail, yet their bite kills a horse in seconds. Each casts a spell upon the spiders, and then all 3 chant musically in unison your name. Avenger. You have been named as the one the spiders must attack. All around the rock, the tree is bare, burnt earth. The spiders can scuttle quickly across the ground, and it is unlikely that you can escape from the triangle, for you will be bitten. We can try and kill them at a distance with our throwing stars, all 2 of them, where there are 3 spiders. It's going to be risky, we're likely to miss. Hurl a shuriken at one of the dark elves, climb the tree, feign death behind the pier of rock, or advance towards one of the spiders, keeping the rock and the tree behind us, between us and the other 2. Seems very reasonable. However, since we are immune to poisons, we also get to read section 215. You may have cause to thank Quan that you have, over the years of your training, ingested small quantities of certain poisons until you became immune to them. One of these was the venom of the executioner spider, but it was so virulent that you could never take more than a diluted droplet without falling unconscious. Make a note of the number 225, and if you are bitten by only a single spider, turn to that paragraph. Now turn to 373 and make your choice. I think there's some of these where we get bitten by more than one spider, but I'm not certain. So we do need to try and kill the spiders. I don't fancy the odds of rolling a d6 plus 2 and getting high enough to kill a lot of spiders. Hurl a shuriken at one of the Dark Elves ends in a single bite. Let's try this, okay? Or advance towards one of the spiders, keeping the rock and the tree between you and the other two. Obviously, many of these results will be very, very deadly. It's a very nasty situation. We do know throwing a ninja star at one of the Dark Elves was good last time. Cautiously, you advance on one of the spiders, which scurries quickly towards you across the burnt earth, zigzagging erratically and gravitating towards cracks in the earth and stones, as if seeking shelter. You bend to pick up a piece of dead wood with which to flatten it, but as you do so, the nearest Dark Elf sorcerer speaks a spell of immolation, and the wood bursts into flames and as quickly crumbles into a pile of useless ash. You retreat, hoping that the paths of the other two spiders, which you have lost sight of, will have crossed, for if they meet, you remember in a flash of inspiration, female executioner spiders will fight to the death. What? As in, two female executioner spiders will fight each other to the death, or a female executioner spider will fight anything to the death. Will you retreat to the tree to climb up it, or fall back towards the pier of rock? I'll go for the tree, because that is the same climbing number I think we've seen before for the tree. It's not good, because I'm pretty sure spiders can climb trees. Quickly you climb the tree, but the three spiders arrive at different sides of the dead trunk simultaneously, and they scurry up the pale bark with undiminished speed. You try to squash them with the sides of your hands, but they all leap upwards onto your outstretched hands at the last moment. So that's being bitten by three spiders. Okay! So we do need to work out a way in which we are only bitten by one. In which case... Oh... 215 was it? Yeah, so 373. Well, we know we had a successful way last time. I'll go with wasting a throwing star on a sorcerer, because at least it works. So throw a ninja star at one of the Dark Elves. He's busy chanting and, well, concentrating on spells, so your shuriken flashes through the air, but your target breathes a spell of transmutation, and the throwing star becomes a feather that flutters harmlessly to the ground. With a shock, you realize you have lost sight of the positions of two of the spiders. You look around warily, but one of them crawls under a stone nearby, and as you step back towards it, rushes out and sinks tiny fangs into your heel. This is being bitten by one spider, not two. The poison courses through your veins, and death would be swift, but because we were bitten by only one spider, and interestingly, it would seem that we can't kill off individual spiders before being bitten. The poison courses through your veins, but your immunity to poisons lessens the effect of the venom of the executioner spider. You lose 8 endurance, however, before you have smashed the last of the spiders to a messy pulp. Now, the implication of that is we kill all the spiders, maybe getting bitten more than once. It may be, however, that we need to kill off... that the intention is that we kill off 2 spiders before we can be bitten by only 1. But in this case, we were able to be bitten by only 1 regardless of how many spiders were alive. If you are still alive, you can hardly believe your eyes when the Dark Elves remount the giant carrion crows, which then flap away into the gathering dusk that seems to flow out of the rift like a black mist. And we... Oh. Where did that 2 damage come from? That wasn't the fight with the monster. Are we dead again? What could have caused only 2 damage? 373, so 185. So, advance towards the spiders, keeping a rock and a track between you. Yeah, so we go 15. Is there 2 damage here? It's literally impossible. No. Okay. Did I just write 8 here instead of 2? Well, that'll be a fun one for recording. I'm sure you guys can let me know in the comments. 185, wasn't it? They've made their attempt and now departed. You carry on into the night, not resting until mid-morning the next day. When you awake a few hours later, the crows are wheeling far above your head once more. We are travelling to Sorcerak, so we must turn east. Your stealth and such woodcraft as you have in particular... Sorry, I'll do that again, that was rubbish. Your stealth and such woodcraft as you have, in particular your skill as a tracker, are put to good use as you turn eastwards through the wilderness. Several times you almost run into warbands of orcs returning from raiding across the plain of the inner sea. Evidently Irsmuncast is not the only city that suffers at the hands of the spawn of the rift. A very important sentence. You are still 2 days out of Sorcerak, skirting the deeping woods, when a party of 20 riders emerges from the forest and gallops towards you. You are relieved to see that they carry the familiar lozenge-shaped shields of followers of Dharma. It is a patrol from the city of Sorcerak. Lozenge shields... Celtic. And possibly a certain early Roman period, a little bit. Because it's not quite a lozenge, it's with the cut off bottom and top. Anyway, that's a very positive sign. A very positive sign indeed. You decide to tell them no more than that you are travelling to Sorcerak, and they lend you a reserve mount. Many are curious about your glowing green orb of an eye, but they suppress their curiosity when you pretend that you are sensitive about it. You learn much on the journey. There is no one ruler of Sorcerak. It is a republic. 100 Prodromese. 100 Prodromese, each chosen by the vote of the populace, sit in a council called the Boule, where decisions of state are made. The followers of Beatan hold a few votes more than either Dharma or the nature god's followers. It seems you will have to make a speech in the Boule. To persuade them, in fact. The city of Sorcerak lies on the banks of the bountiful blue waters of the Boule River, amid richly fertile fields. Everywhere flowers blossom, and there are clouds of many-hued butterflies in the meadows. You are escorted through the city gates into the beautiful city of gardens. Many of the buildings of the city have been built out of many different types of stone, of many colours. No, built out of many different types of stone of many colours. Most are covered in a drapery of flowery creepers, clematis, rose glory, red ivy, and widow foil. You are taken to the city hall, in which is the hall of governance, where the Boule meets. Scribes fire a number of questions at you, writing all the time with ostentatious flourishes of their quills. Their version of the common tongue is at first difficult to understand, but with practice this improves. At length you are called upon to address the Boule. You look around at the 100 Prodromese as you nervously try to decide what to say and in what manner to say it. The sceptre at your side lends you confidence. The people seated in the tiered pews of the Oval Hall could hardly look more different from one another. One from another. Many proclaim the deity they serve through their dress. The followers of Beatan are unmistakable. They are spread evenly throughout the hall. They're chaotic, they're not going to sit in a group, they're very individualistic. But all wear the badge of the five-spoked wheel of myriad possibility. Seated opposite you is a body of men and women who wear the sword and lozenge-shaped shield of Dharma. On their right is a group of strange-looking men clad in greens and browns, each wearing a sprig of oak in their hair. You guess them to be the followers of Ilex Cuneon, the god of animals and plants. Beyond them you are dismayed to note 15 or so black whirlpool badges, and next to these a like number of purple and green spiders, which is to say the council is 30% evil. It's probably a relatively even split between the good, evil, and neutral alignments, but let's continue on. Sorcerak has its share of evildoers too. Fate and Toramalku the Slayer are also represented, and there are 6 young priestesses bearing the symbol of a crescent moon, but the identity of their god or goddess eludes you. They are a mixed audience indeed. There will be no secrecy here in Boule. We are not hideously scarred as a result of tearing the emerald orb from our eye socket as it was settling in, for we were not that foolish. So, this is where things get interesting, right? You can tell them of your father and ask them to honour his memory by granting troops for your campaign. Make much of the evil of the Legion of the Sword of Doom. These people are already being harried by the orcs and other creatures of the Rift. Or, and let's do this again because it was a mistake last time, right? Invoke the power of the sceptre as you describe the justice of your cause. Let's go for that, because... Actually, wait. Let's be really sneaky. 127. I'm just making a note of this number. Oh look, we got 12 there already. It's almost like my finger just slipped and put a 7 on there. Because... at section 147 we are given, I believe, 3 choices, one of which is this choice, and I want to see if it's the same number or a different one. I'm presuming it will be a different number. Soon after you begin your speech, which is an honest one summarising the difficult position you find yourself in as Overlord of Irsmuncast, and your hopes and aspirations, you invoke the friendly power of the sceptre. Your charisma is subtly increased, and your voice carries a compelling ring of truth and understanding. Looking around, you see that your actions have polarized the feeling of the Boule. The followers of Nemesis and Nulak, the Spider Queen, scowl at you with ill-concealed distaste. That's because we know the sceptre will not work on people who are already our enemies. Others seem receptive to your words, but it may be that some of the Prodromese have detected your use of magic. At length your speech is done, you sit down to loud applause and some hissing. After you have finished speaking, there is an energetic debate. One of the followers of Dharma says that yours is a just and noble cause and calls upon the followers of Beatan to vote with her and become your ally. The followers of Beatan appear to be divided, and the followers of the nature god indifferent. Those of Nemesis claim that to send forces to your aid would leave the city exposed to an attack from the spawn of the rift. Suddenly a priestess of Nolak, the supreme queen who rules in malicious envy and whose touch is poison, stands up and denounces you as a trickster who uses magic to beguile the members of the Boule. Will you admit that you have used the power of the sceptre? Or ignore her, saying instead that you are also in the middle of a war with the spawn of the rift? Or say that you will promise, under threat of a dire curse, to come to their aid if they are ever attacked. This didn't work last time, but they have recently been frequently attacked by the spawn of the rift. So this is probably a better option than admitting it. Let's go with that instead. You have excited them by the thought of striking a blow against the spawn of the rift, and you are fortunate in that the Boule members become so impassioned and wrapped up in their own oratory that they forget about the allegation levelled against you. You interrupt to say that if you succeed against Honoric, you will then turn your powers against the denizens of the bowels of orb itself. Well then. So it was not section 127. Your words provoke another storm of debate. One of the followers of Dharma says that the cause is a noble one, and she calls upon the followers of Beatan to vote with them. This feels like a copy of section 127, interestingly enough. To vote with them and to become your ally. The head of the Boule, a learned man called Obuda Varhegian, a follower of Beatan, commands rapt attention as he speaks, saying that to become your ally would be to strike a blow against law, and that the rule of the war god would bring fatal stagnation and limitation of possibilities. Because the Legion of the Sword of Doom follow the war god, and the worshippers of Beatan hate him. Right? The nature god's followers appear unconcerned, and the followers of Nemesis are against you. One says that to send forces as far away as the Man March is to invite attack by the spawn of the rift. When the vote is taken, however, it is marginally in your favour. You are asked to a meeting of the Boule leaders immediately after the other items of public business are settled. It's hard to get a heavy swing vote in a democracy such as this one. You're going to generally win by margins, fairly narrow margins, and there'll be a lot of upset people, but there will be an overall result. That's what they get for not having a single governing authoritative figure. While you wait in the small council chamber, the Prodromese are debating about how many troops to send to your aid. At last the door opens and two people enter. Presumably, then, these two. That would be the the wheel of myriad possibility. So it's a half wheel, which is interesting. The first is the learned head of the Boule, Obuda Varhegian, dressed in a long yellow robe, bearing the 5-arrowed half-wheels that signify the many ways to do good deeds, central to the theology of Beatan. So there may be a robe with a reverse symbol where it shows the lower half of the wheel. right, that is worn on different occasions. Behind him is the most striking woman wearing a plain kirtle and a blue shawl, her coppery hair done up in silk twists. Her blue eyes are warm and soft, and she smiles as a Buddha introduces her as Hivatala, the sword mistress of the Sorcerak Guard. Isn't she the one that we were told almost never leaves her temple? Your surprise at her title is obvious, and this pleases her. You sit around a small table and they tell you what has passed in the Boule. Only 2,000 troops have been voted to help you in the campaign, but Hivatala says that she will call for volunteers to augment this. Obuda also feels that the followers of Beatan in the city of Avenger in the Man March are sure to send men if he sends a message to them, for they are strongly opposed to Honoric. By the time you leave the pleasant city of gardens, you are beginning to feel that there is hope. Hivatala herself will command the forces of Sorcerak, and she will arrive with 2,000 shield maidens, including 500 mounted troops and 1,000 swordsmen of the army of myriad possibilities, followers of Beatan. I'm noting this down, just in case it matters. We didn't make note of our default standing army. I may go do that in between episodes. So, additional forces will be 2,000 shield maidens of Dharma, led by Hivatala, and including 500 cavalry. And 1,000... Right. Oh! 2,000, not 200. Yes. What? There we go. Now, the reason I'm noting as many details as possible is we do not know how they will be referred to in the future. So we have about another 2,000 shield maidens of Dharma, some of the Overlord's army, militia, and the... what's his name? The orator. Look, he's not a very physical person, but he's fanatical enough that he knows that to inspire them to fight, he may need to lead from the head. Right. Currently, by the way, we have as many endurance points as thumbs, and we're not an amputee. Hivatala has estimated that it would take her perhaps a 10-day longer than you to reach Irsmuncast with her army. Gwyneth will be overjoyed to see you at the head of your troops, you had told her, but as you skirt the bowels of Orb, you all but run into a warband of orcs, almost 1,000 strong. In avoiding them, you catch sight of another, even larger warband marching to join it. The signs suggest that you may suffer another attack from the spawn of the rift before too long. You only hope that Hivatala manages to win through with her army intact, so they may suffer heavy losses. Your return to Irsmuncast is celebrated with feasting, and the mood of the people is lifted when the news of your alliance with the Republic of Sorcerak is spread abroad. Messengers and envoys asking for help have been sent to many places, but no one has yet joined your banner. Rumours that Honoric is on the march reach you, and you double the scouting patrols out to the west and also east towards the rift. It is still possible that your worst fears may be correct, that the spawn of the rift are waiting for a chance to strike as Sorcerak does. The city defences have been repaired and your troops are drilling daily, though the rabble militia will never make an effective fighting force in time. At last your scouts bring news of friendly troops approaching. The next day the streets are lined with cheering people as Hivatala, sword mistress of the guard at Serakub, leads into the city a force as large as she had promised. 2,500 foot soldiers, shield maidens and reverencers of Beatan, and 500 cavalry. And 500. So that 2,000 isn't including, but additional. Interesting. So she's managed to get another 500 volunteers. 500 cavalry whose horsemanship is a joy to be... Right, 4 days... Hang on. 2,500 foot soldiers, shield maidens and reverencers of Beatan, and 500 cavalry whose horsemanship is a joy to behold. Ah, the reverencers of Beatan have been lumped into that. That makes sense. That's where we get the 2,500. Got it. 4 days later, another force arrives. No, and 500. So that's still... We've gone from 2,500 up to 3,000. 4 days later, another force arrives of 2,000, 600 of whom are the illustrious cavalry of myriad possibility, and similar scenes of jubilation are reenacted. The shield maidens fit in well with Gwyneth's troops in their grey, white and green, with the shield of Dharma emblazoned everywhere, while the followers of Beatan look equally splendid in their yellow surcoats. At last you have a fighting chance. Now, I'm putting that there again because I may need to note the cavalry of myriad possibilities as opposed to the foot soldiers of Beatan. Now, this has been days, right? We've been back in the city for days and we have not had any health restored. I suspect that's an oversight, but I also suspect that it will be restored before we are in danger. On the next day, you are roused from your bed with unlooked-for good tidings. Your old friend Glavis awaits you in the throne room with 20 rangers who have come to champion your cause. You rejoice, knowing that each has the wisdom and if each has the wisdom and skill of Glavis, they are worth many times their number in battle. Glavis proves invaluable in helping you to plan your strategy. He also brings news of troops marching north of the city from the rift, either to attack the city or to join up with Sorarak's forces. I suspect the latter. Something you must prevent at all costs. Later that day you feel as if you have been plunged into a tale of olden times, as a company of 200 wood elves joins your rank from the woods north of Sundial. They are few in numbers, but each carries a stout yew bow, and Gwyneth tells you that each one is probably a better marksman than anyone in the man-marched cities. Probably true. Was it 200 archers? 200 archers. And this was before Peter Jackson added wood elves to the defence of Helm's Deep. Oh, well, high elves. There was one elf in the siege of Helm's Deep. It says so in the books. And the BBC radio series, which is very good, 13 hours long, epic. I highly recommend it. Also, Sir Michael Hordern played Gandalf in the radio version, and Ian McSomething, whatever his name was, blatantly ripped off Michael Hordern's performance for the films. Literally copied all the speech patterns and many of the mannerisms. It's interesting, actually, because in an interview about making the films, he claims, mistakenly, that Tolkien himself used to read out the entire, read out from the books and act out all the parts and recorded these, I suspect that someone played him certain scenes from the BBC radio drama, and either they told him that was the case or he got the wrong idea somehow. And that's giving him great benefit of the doubt, because it's blatantly obvious that he is copying Sir Michael Hordern's performance rather effectively and rather heavily. And I don't mind, because Michael Horden did a brilliant job. I am glad that essentially his performance was resurrected for this role. I'm not sure there would be any better way to do it. I just feel there's been a little disingenuousness and misattribution. There are a few, like 1 or 2 recordings of Tolkien himself reading out passages from the books, but not like, not like that. Okay. Let's see. You notice there's been no mention of restoring endurance points yet. It's bound to come at some point. On the 5th day of Grimweird, more information comes in from your scouts. Honoric has marched to a point just south of the city of Mort Avalon and will be at the walls of Irsmuncast within a 10-day. The Rift forces have split. The smaller force is veering north, apparently to join up with Honoric. The other, numbering at least 10,000 and perhaps many more, is marching directly on Irsmuncast, and will arrive at the same time as Honoric's force. The carrion crows fly hither and thither over the city, watching your preparations. Glavis suggests that you must try to defeat the enemy forces piecemeal, since together they outnumber you heavily. He suggests marching north to cut off the smaller force from the rift to begin with. Gwyneth, however, would prefer to concentrate all your forces within the city and withstand a siege, attacking out when the enemy forces begin to fall out, which, she argues, is inevitable. Antocidus suggests smashing the larger force, which would free more troops to deal with Honoric later, since a force will be needed to guard the city against the forces of the Rift, who will in all likelihood lay siege to the city if they are not dealt with first. Whose advice will you follow? That of Glavis, Gwyneth, or Antocidus? Right. Glavis is a good old friend. He cares for us the most, and out of these 3, he has the most experience with monsters of all kinds, including the spawn of the Rift. Lady Gwyneth knows how to protect the city and look after the city, and that's her main priority. We need to try and ensure that it does not come to that. Antocidus wants us to go smash the larger force. Not a bad idea. But it would leave us undefended, which we can arguably do. Ooh. Now, Lady Gwyneth's advice is generally quite reliable, but she's also generally the safe option. Glavis's advice is generally wise. Antocidus, I'm not sure we've ever followed his advice yet. And I'm not... He's a mercenary, so he's predominantly operating out of fear and greed. Mostly greed. I think we want to follow Glavis's advice, but maybe follow Antocitus's advice at one point in the future. Oh. Hang on. Glavis suggests must try to defeat enemy forces piecemeal. I agree there, since together they outnumber you heavily. March north to cut off the smaller force with the rift from the rift to begin with. The smaller force which is moving north to join with Honoric. If we ride out to attack the larger force, we may suffer heavy losses and then have problems when Honoric arrives. So I will take the advice of Glavis, my good old friend. With a great parade and much tearful leave-taking, you lead your army out in full panoply of war. Gwyneth gives you a magnificent white charger, and you cut a right royal dash, riding out at the head of your troops, with your sceptre and your glowing green emerald eye. Unfortunately, the crow scouts of your enemies see you coming, and the rift forces turn north to avoid you. Your troops are faster than they are, however, and they number no more than 600 according to your scouts, so you order your cavalry to cut them off and annihilate them. When the cavalry return, they report complete success. Those troops will not be reinforcing Honoric as they had hoped. They also carry tales of 5 fanatical knights wearing the red cross of Rocheval who appeared as if from nowhere to join in the carnage, and then, just as mysteriously, rode away again. Let us hope we made the wisest choice there. If not, then going to attack the large army to the south is big trouble. Would have been the best idea, probably, but we could have taken very heavy losses in open battle. You return to Irsmuncast in case more troops have arrived to follow your course. After a day's rest, you prepare to march forth once again. Greystaff, the High Priest of the Temple of Avatar, introduces to you a man he calls the White Wizard. He wears a white robe and a tall conical hat, worn by wizards only in fairy tales. But if Greystaff says you should let him join the army, you reflect you will be too glad to agree. I mean, if the White Wizard is on our side, we're in a pretty good condition. Early the next morning, a messenger comes to the royal bedchamber. If you have played Usurper, Book 3, and a paladin called Dore Lejeune helped you to defeat the Usurper when you toppled him from the throne, which he absolutely did, turn to section 249. Been wondering where he was, and looking forward to meeting with him once again. The message is that a paladin from beyond the rift called Dore Lejeune and 4 companions, all of whom wear the red cross of Rocheval, Prince of Knights Errant, wielder of the Holy of Holies, are requesting permission to join your army. They joined our cavalry when we drove off the spawn of the rift. They might have been able to handle that on their own, so perhaps we should have dealt with the larger force to the south. You leap out of bed and pull on your clothes, eager to greet that great warrior who helped you at your time of need, forgetful for the moment of the great zeal that drove him to the ends of orb in a single-handed attempt to eradicate evil from existence. In all honesty, he might quibble about being deployed near the followers of Beatan. Yeah, he doesn't like them. But I'm hoping that this battle is, important enough that he'll be able to overlook that, at least until afterwards. And if we avoid sending him to the same part of the battlefield as them, all the better. He is pleased to see you, and you say that you will be honoured to have him and his friends ride beside you. You ask him why he left without a word, and he replies, "There was more city without Irsmuncast than within. Besides, I left you behind to take care of things." You retort that things seem to be taking care of you since he left, and he smiles. The first time you've ever seen him do this. Now, okay. At the final council of war, you must decide how to split your troops. You will need a very strong force to stand a chance of defeating Honoric, but at the same time, as soon as you march out to do battle, the forces from the Rift will lay siege to the city, so you must leave troops behind to defend it. If you stay where you are, enemy forces will unite outside the walls. If, as Gwyneth suggests, you feel that is the most sensible strategy, it might not be. Then turn to section 199. Lackland, the leader of the troops who were once the usurper's army, and high priest of the Temple of Nemesis, suggests that you leave behind the city militia and perhaps 1,000 followers of Dharma to strengthen their backbone. Antocitus scowls at Lackland and says that he recommends leaving Lackland and his 3,500 troops, which he values less highly than Gwyneth's 2,000 to strengthen them. The demagogue urges you to split your forces into two, leaving half to defend the city. Whose advice will you follow? That of Lackland, Antocitus, or the demagogue? Well, I don't feel the demagogue... His interest is the protection of the people, but if we lose the battle outside, there won't be enough to really defend the people unless we fall back into the city. I think I can leave this one here and pick it up next time. Take a little time to think over this. Yeah. Also, I'm a little concerned by the lack of healing. I'm sure it's coming. I'm just not entirely sure when. So, I'm going to end this episode here. I hope you've all enjoyed this one, and I'll look forward to seeing you all in the next one, with my 2 endurance points. I'll say goodbye for now, though, and cheerio, everyone. See you all soon. Just watch out for the spawn of the Rift. They're always creeping in from somewhere or other. Very sneaky like that.